Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Kalen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast. Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. Kalen, you're not Kalen. Oh, no. Man, but you are a very special guest. Kalen can't be here today because he has strep throat and he feels really bad. Because today our guest is Andrew Wilkinson.
Hello.
Hello, Andrew Wilkinson. So, Andrew, for people who don't know you, let me give a brief bio.
Sure.
You're a barista to a billionaire.
Former billionaire. Important detail.
Nice. Okay, yeah, former. That's a good thing to know. You're also the lead in Tiny Industries and Meta and AeroPress, amongst maybe 20, 30, 40 other companies?
40, yeah.
Wow, amazing. And you look so young.
I'm 40.
That's not so young. I take it back.
If I shaved, so the other day I was doing my mustache about a week ago, and I trimmed it wrong, and so I had to cut the entire thing off. Otherwise, I have a massive hole in it.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend shrieked, and she's like, "Never, ever, ever do that again." Because I look like I'm like 18 again.
You know, this is the first time I think I've seen you with any facial hair.
I can finally grow it at 40.
Well, it took me forever to grow facial hair. You know what got me going with facial hair was kids. As soon as I started to have kids, hair just started to sprout up everywhere.
For me, it was gray hair.
Was it?
The moment I had kids, I got gray hair. And I finally got back hair, which I'm not a big fan of, about 2 years ago.
Really?
But chest hair, I had nothing. I was like a naked mole rat.
Yeah, you and me both. I had like 12 that you could really count, and now there's probably 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of your facial hair, whose idea was it to grow facial hair? Was it yours?
It was ChatGPT's.
I thought it might be.
I took a photo of myself and I said, tell me how to be more handsome. And it said, grow a beard. And
really?
So here we are.
That's all it took to be more handsome?
Apparently.
You got naturally good-looking genes then.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
So you just take your pictures, stick it into ChatGPT and say, make me
I just said, like,
please?
Here's a bunch of photos of me. What should I do? What should I wear? How should I style my hair? And it gave me a bunch of advice. And I felt really good about that. But then now there's this guy who's like viral on TikTok, and he'll do really ugly photos of himself and say, what do you think of my face? Or how is my outfit? And it'll tell him it's amazing. So actually, I don't think I think it's just probably telling me what I want to hear.
Well, isn't that the thing with AI is that it kind of goes off your prompts and it can read maybe a bit more into the prompts than you'd want to think, and so it gives you the answers it thinks that you're prompting it to give it.
It's a little bit sycophantic for sure.
Yeah.
Although it's getting better.
Okay, because when AI first started to become popular with ChatGPT, I kind of looked at it really quickly and I asked a bunch of dumb questions and I got kind of dumb answers, and I got pretty good at asking really good questions, and I got more interesting answers, but I didn't really like it that much at the time. It felt clunky, and it felt like it was all about how much effort you put into coming up with a really brilliant question. And if you can think of those questions, you can probably think of an answer too. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of dropped it, but I keep hearing it gets better and better and better and more useful, and it's going to take the jobs of all the white-collar workers.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, to use a coffee shop analogy, 4 or 5 years ago, it was like, it wasn't even like the intern, training wage kind of employee, right? It couldn't do basic things. If it was a robot, it would be, making terrible coffee and spilling things. Mm-hmm. But flash forward 3 years, it's at the point where it could be the coffee roaster, the master coffee roaster, where it's doing something that requires taste and sophistication and learning. So in my industry, in technology, we've gone from 3 years ago, it's kind of like, it can write like some website copy or something like that, right, to now doing the work of somebody that I would otherwise pay $300,000. So like a programmer, like a world-class programmer.
Yeah.
And that's really scary because if you just apply that to the rest of the economy, they're focused on that first because they're in tech, right? So they're building out AI to be amazing designers, programmers, copywriters, all those things. Now it's at the point where instead of hiring people, I'm just spending more and more money on AI credits. So we're spending like $40,000 a month in payroll, but it's just AI for digital employees, basically. So it's
Wow.
scary. It's going to be really scary as that rolls across the economy.
Why would you think that tech people creating AI would create something that's inevitably going to be the demise of their industry? Or maybe it's not the demise of the industry, maybe it's just a change. But why would someone create something so evidently self-destructive?
Well, I think because it's so powerful, right? I think it's like a double-edged sword, just like nuclear fission, right? So it's like it can create a nuclear bomb and kill us all, but it can also create nuclear power. And I think it's like that times 1,000 because if you think about it, we will have the potential, maybe if AI does do what it hopes to do, to have crazy innovation that is basically automatic. So imagine, 200 years of cancer research in a 5-year period. That's possible because you can basically just take 1,000 PhDs and they're just like a data center, digital PhDs,
Right.
and be like, hey, go figure out cancer, go figure out this rare disease. And so when that happens, it's like it could unlock so much incredible opportunity for humanity. And on the same side, it could also eliminate a lot of jobs. And there's an argument around, the economy maybe changes and we do jobs that we never could have imagined. If you told someone 400 years ago, you go to a farmer and you explain to them that you were in a coffee shop, they would be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
That's not a job, right? So the economy invents new jobs sometimes.
sure.
But if you think about AI, it can eat any job that's behind a keyboard. And maybe with robots, it can eat any job, period. And so the entire economy has to change potentially.
It kind of feels like the entire economy is on the cusp of a radical change, even now. And I don't think of it as a change with AI, but having what you just said, it kind of makes sense that it's happening quicker, and it's going to be more kind of a clean slate of the economy, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
I've been thinking for the last couple of years that the entire global economy is going to be changing radically. We're not going to be working off the U.S. The U.S. greenback anymore. Oil's not going to be traded in it anymore. Gold may or may not have any kind of value anymore. And I don't know. Have you got any predictions as to how complete the economic change is going to be?
So I used to read the newspaper every single day. I'd read the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and local news and all that kind of stuff. And I found that I just would get into like anxiety loops often about things that wouldn't actually directly affect me. So I'd, obsessively read about what Trump was doing and then freak out. And at a certain point, I remember I was talking to a friend and he goes, you live in an earthquake subduction zone where a super thrust earthquake could hit at any moment. How much time do you spend thinking about that? And I said, well, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it because I don't control it. And because I have an earthquake preparedness kit. I got one in my car. I have one in my basement. I've got food. I've got all those things. That's the best that I can do. And
Right.
so once I prepared, then I realized it's way more fruitful to spend my time worrying about stuff I can control. And so I can't control geopolitics. I can't predict the price of oil, gold, any of that stuff. But with the AI stuff, I feel like I can spend my time understanding it and then preparing for that in some way. And so for me, that's been trying to invest in businesses that won't get blown up. It's been investing in like data centers and trying to find ways of protecting myself. But I feel like there's an earthquake that's been accurately predicted. Like imagine if we could accurately predict the earthquake. And I said, Sam, in 365 days, there's a super thrust earthquake that could kill 20% of Victoria's population. Everyone would be freaking the fuck out.
They would, yeah.
But that's AI. That's like the meteor is headed for Earth. It's quite predictable. And nobody, a lot of people I talk to, unless they're like tech nerds like me, are aware of what's coming. And I think it's the sad part about it is in some ways it's sad, in some ways it's kind of ironic, but the people who are white collar, who went to school and got their degrees and they got the accounting CPA or they are a lawyer or whatever it is, those are the first jobs to go.
Yeah.
And, you know, you think about in the Great Depression, it's like people who are laborers, those are the people getting laid off. You could have your wealthy lawyer neighbor hammering on your door asking you for money. Like that's a strange world to be a part of. And I think that there could be a period where it's really rough. My long-term belief is like, this will create a lot of abundance and opportunity. And it can, to your point, reshape the entire economy. Like communism and socialism could be possible because you can't have a couple dudes control an entire country, but you can have a super intelligent AI. So maybe UBI and socialism and stuff is far more possible. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So AI is your earthquake preparedness kit, kind of. You're putting a lot of attention on that, trying to build up your portfolio in AI and understanding it so that you can kind of navigate through whatever is coming.
I mean, that's what I'm doing personally, and I'm just trying to talk to everyone I can to tell them about what I think is coming. And it's hard to predict, right? It's very
Sure.
possible that people, I mean, look at realtors, right? When Zillow came out or realtor.ca, everyone said, oh, realtors are screwed. No one's going to use a realtor. Well, it turns out that you still kind of need a person to trust, right? Because people don't trust just listing it themselves. It's $1 million asset. It's their biggest asset, and they
Right.
want to sell it right. So they still hire realtors, but realtors on paper makes no sense. You're giving this huge amount of money to somebody who opens the door, puts some photos up on realtor.ca. Yeah, there's great realtors out there, don't get me wrong,
I'm sure.
but that shouldn't exist, and yet it does, right? Or in the health system, we have fax machines still. So, you know, you can always, oh yeah, like all the
I know.
hospitals, it's all fax
It's
machines,
so
right?
crazy.
So I think like we can overestimate the change and how quick it comes, but I
Okay.
think in unregulated industries, like it's coming really, really quick.
Well, in the hospitality industry, you see it happening not only kind of in the back end, but out front too. Now
Mhm.
you see whole entire restaurants that have no employees. I think there was one that just opened up in California somewhere, and there's no employees.
Wow.
You order through a kiosk. There's arms in the back that are flipping your burgers and
Wow.
wrapping stuff up, and you don't necessarily have to talk to anyone. But that's not why I go out to eat.
Yeah, you want to,
Right? You want to
well, that's not,
engage with other people.
that's not why you go out to eat most of the time, but there are times where you probably go, you know, if it's, you know, labor cost is what, 35% of the price, right? And so you go in and you say, okay, I can buy a burger for $12 and I'll have a human do it, or I can buy a burger for $8 and it's just a robot. But I just go in and it's really fast and it's really consistent. So I feel like on the low end, I could definitely see that being fine.
Yeah.
But on the high end, you know, you go out for dinner, you want to talk to a human, you want to look them in the eye, you want to feel that sense of artistry and craftsmanship.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. I think that if you're just going for the burger or going to get some food in your gut, and you're just driving, and you don't really care, you don't have plans for lunch with a friend, then yeah, I can see that working. But
But you know
I don't
this
know.
better than anyone, right? You know about creating a culture and a vibe in a space, right? People go to 2% Jazz because they want to talk to you, or they know that amazing music is going to be playing, or there's going to be people that are charming to talk to, or the coffee is going to be incredible. Like those all come together. And we all know we could make coffee for a fifth of the cost at home, but instead I want to go and I want to be around other people.
Yeah,
So there's still a humanity there. The problem is, if the AI stuff happens, like, and 30% of people are just suddenly unemployed or feeling like maybe I will be unemployed in a year, it's going to be interesting to think about which businesses will survive that.
Yeah, it's a little daunting for sure. I mean, it's also there's a light at the end of that tunnel. It feels like it could all be really great once we're through it, but we definitely I feel like we're going to go through some hard times before we get out to the other side with a newer economy with different objectives in that economy. It's not just to make money, because maybe we don't need it for all that much anymore. If people don't have jobs and aren't getting paid and things are being done by AI and they're so much cheaper, and we develop great sources of energy that don't cost us very much, why do we need an economy at all?
I mean, it's a little bit like newspapers, right? So people love newspapers and they have an affinity for them, and they are important in a city, flipping over rocks and seeing what crawls out in the dark. But people who worked in the newspaper industry were very upset when that got disrupted. And we're left with the consequences of not having great news in many cities. But what used to happen is you'd have some rich person who spent $5 or $10 million on a printing press. They would have a monopoly in a city, and they would get to control and make all the money from that. Now we have people, any journalist can spin up a Substack, and they're going to make $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 a month. Some of them make millions, but there's no newspaper baron anymore. Now, it's sad for the people in that industry, but we're also given a lot more creative freedom. If you're a writer, you do not need the middleman. You do not need the rich person with the printing press to do that. And I think what's exciting about AI is, like, anyone now can do things that would otherwise cost them $100,000. Like, you could make a website that is as good as MetaLab could make yourself using Claude in a few days, right? That's what's crazy about this.
How does that make you feel, coming from that industry and being on the edge of it all the time, and like really pushing for website designs? You did. I don't know if I got this right, but you did Slack, did you? And a bunch of work on Shopify as well.
Shopify, Uber, Slack, YouTube, a bunch of those. Yeah.
Wow. So, and that all came from your own creation, or
Well, it came from working in your coffee shop.
because you really hated it?
No,
You
I loved
didn't
it.
want
I loved it.
either.
I hated waking up early.
Yeah.
So I hated waking up and taking the bus at 5 a.m. But I always tell people being a barista is a really damn good job, because I like to talk and I'm extroverted, and I loved working for you, and I loved chatting with all the customers, and it was awesome. I was just so damn tired.
Right, so early. I guess for people who don't know, you did used to work at 2% Jazz.
22 years ago, I think.
Was it
Something
22
like
years
that.
ago?
It's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2% Jazz turned exactly 30 this month,
Wow.
but I don't know what day.
You
it
should be very
was.
proud. You beat all the statistics on a small business. That's an incredible
did.
thing.
But is it wrong that it feels like it's my first year still?
No, I think that's normal. I feel, I don't know. I mean, definitely don't look at me and think, oh, he's got all these businesses and it's easy. Like, I feel like every year there's some new crisis or thing that comes up that makes it all feel like year one. And the stress, I just want the stress to go away, and it never quite does.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I'm exhausted of being so busy and being stretched.
Yeah.
And I'm getting older. I think it's definitely time for a change for me. But that's a different conversation entirely. But when you used to work at 2% Jazz, that was some of the funnest times, I think, that I can remember being behind a bar.
Oh, yeah. You, me, Jeff, Mo.
Yeah.
So fun.
and and Mr. Zach
And
Young.
Zach, yeah.
Zach Young. Now, you guys went to school together,
We
didn't
did.
you?
We went to Oak Bay. That's how he
yeah.
ended up working for you, I think.
Okay, because the two of you together were just a riot.
I remember laughing harder than I've ever laughed, especially with Mo. She's so funny.
She's awesome. She still is awesome. Yeah.
I haven't seen her, and it's so weird how in Victoria, I always think it's such a small place, but sometimes I won't see someone for 20 years somehow. Bizarre.
Right?
Well, my dad saw her. She had a baby, I think.
Yeah.
My dad ran into her, but I haven't
Happy
seen her in
and
forever.
healthy and
It's awesome.
full of beans. Yeah, and she's doing so good. And yeah, we used to have a really fun time, and you can't have a cafe like that anymore. I don't think. I think times have changed.
How's it changed?
Well, just how we had fun, who we had that fun at their expense. You just can't do that anymore. For good or for ill. I really miss those times, and that's why I got into this kind of business, is because I love having a good time. I love being a host to entertain people when they come into my house or my cafe. And that particular group of people that we had there at that time was the most fun. I had lots of other really hilarious people who worked with me in the past, but that particular moment in time will always be there for me, and it was so much fun. And I look back to it and go, I wish I was still having that much fun. But as we grow up and responsibilities and everything changes, I miss those times, man.
Well, it's so funny because every entrepreneur I know, you say, wow, you must be so proud, right? So I just said, you must be so proud. You've been running your business for 30 years. You're roasting. You've expanded all this stuff. And to you, you're going, oh, I miss the old days. And the analogy I always use is like, if I started a business where I chopped wood, let's say I just chop wood because I love it in my backyard and I've got a wood burning fireplace, and my neighbor pokes his head over the fence and says, hey, would you chop me some wood too? And I'll pay you for a cord. And suddenly I'm like, oh my God, this thing I love is now a business. I'm making $100 a day, then 300, then I hire a buddy and we're laughing our heads off and chopping wood together. And then if you flash forward 20 years, you wake up and I own a sawmill. And I'm just doing Excel spreadsheets and trying to make payroll. And I'm talking to my bank. And, that's not why I got into this.
And all you want to do is take an hour out and go cut some wood.
I just want to chop wood. And that I feel like everyone, all the young people are so stressed out. They're saying, I can't wait for the sawmill. And all the sawmill guys are saying, I just want to chop wood.
Right.
Well,
yeah, it's like the analogy about the fisherman.
Yeah.
That's a great
so
analogy. Good. I don't know where I heard that first. It must have been in a book somewhere I read. It's so good though. But it's the same thing as chopping wood and ending up with a sawmill. Just like you're only working that hard so you can take the time off to do what you originally loved to do to begin with.
Yeah.
And I always try to have a really good time at work, like really I do. And I do for the most part. I love my job. I love what I do. I just, it's changed and it's gotten more complex. And even if I were just to go back to being a barista, well, I couldn't. I can't just go back to being a barista anymore. So I make coffee at home early in the morning. I make my press and I sit, and that's the happiest coffee of my day, always. Just that quiet coffee at home where I'm timing and doing it right, and just loving the process, changing something from just these beans into something delicious. And it's just for me at that point.
Well, it's because you control it, right? I think the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is it's like being a screenwriter, right? So you write a screenplay, and let's imagine you're a screenwriter in Hollywood. You write a screenplay and it's this masterpiece and you've got it all figured out in your head. You got to go out and you got to convince all these douchey executives to do the thing. And then you got to hire 100 people and you got to have this film set and you got to get the right cinematographer. And then you end up with this thing And it's, you know, you had the idea and it's here, and there's 1,000 people in between, and it's been bastardized, right? You talk to people in any creative field where there's a lot of other people involved, right? I think the purest form of creativity or entrepreneurship, or not entrepreneurship, but just creating a product is like writing, because it's only in your head and you've just put it on the page, and no one can mess with it. And I think the hardest part about having a business, whether it's cafe or something, you know, like a screenplay or whatever, is that whenever there's people involved, people are complicated. And it's hard to have your vision executed in the exact way that you want. And I think that, I don't know if it's my failing as an entrepreneur, having ADHD or whatever, but like I've never been able to get my vision to be precisely what I want. And so like you know, I'm 20 years into my career. I'm feeling exhausted, and I have had to change how I do business, which is I buy a business, I find someone who's incredibly fired up about that business, and I let them go do that. But I can't do it anymore. It's too hard.
So you're in the business of buying businesses and hiring CEOs
Yeah, I
to
mean,
run them?
and the way I got there was I started a bunch of businesses like you, chaotic entrepreneur, started 10 different businesses. Most of them failed, and one of them worked, and I still had my original web design business. And I ended up getting really stressed out, and a guy came to me and said, "Hey, why don't you sell that business?" And so I sold it, and it was a terrible experience. I watched someone else basically be a bad step parent to my business. It was like having a kid and handing it off to someone and then watching them parent in a way that you don't approve of.
Right.
And that was hard. And I went, you know what? Like, I want to just buy businesses and leave them alone from founders who care about them, and either let the founder keep running them or hire someone who's going to do right by them and just hold the businesses. And so we've been doing that for 12 years, 13 years now.
And the majority of your businesses are in the tech industry, aren't they?
They are, but I mean, we own AeroPress, the coffee maker business.
I really want to talk to you about that.
Well, I'd love to talk
Okay,
about
you want to
that.
jump right in on that?
Totally.
Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to make coffee, and one of them is with the AeroPress method, and it I guess it became quite popular early 2000s, but didn't really take off yet. I remember I had just bought the newest espresso machine you could possibly buy. It blew everything out of the water, this thing. It was beautiful.
The Synesso?
The Synesso.
Oh my God, I remember
right?
that thing. I remember when it arrived, or it just arrived, and you were
Okay.
so excited about it. Yeah.
Okay, so this machine changed how a lot of baristas made good espresso coffee. And one day, out of the blue, this old guy in a cowboy hat comes into my cafe with this, what looked like a penis pump. I'm just going to say it.
Sure.
From what I understand,
Austin Powers. Yeah.
Awesome Powers, thank you. And he says, "I'm going to make way better espresso than you with this." I'm like, first of all, who are you? And he tells me who he is. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't think you're going to. And he said, "Let's do it right now." So we did. I make a beautiful shot, and he presses this contraption that I've never seen anything like it before. And I was really intrigued. But he was saying it's the best espresso maker there is. So I'm like, okay. So we both have our drinks, and we're looking at them. I'm analyzing color and all that, crema depth, and then we drink them. He's like, "See, I told you. Mine's so much better than yours." And I looked at him, and I'm like, "You're crazy, man. You're crazy. I just spent like $30,000 on this machine, and you're telling me that your $20 machine is way better." So I kind of dismissed him for a couple of years. And all of a sudden, people were talking about the AeroPress more. And they were talking about it in terms of making espresso. But all of a sudden, there was a change, and people were talking about it making just ordinary coffee or a concentrate, or it's good for camping or in your hotel room, or just anything. It was easy to clean. I'm like, no. This guy came up and told me it was for espresso. He owns it. I don't want anything to do with it. And then I tried one. I think I was in Brazil with a couple of coffee guys, and they had one, and they were making this coffee in the morning that blew me away. I'm like, that's not espresso. They're like, we never use it to make espresso. It's made to make this beautiful coffee for you. And so I went out and I bought one and started playing with it, and oh man, I love it. And then fast forward years and years and years ago, you come out with a book, and I reading the book, and I get to the chapter where you on a whim go and buy the AeroPress company. Um, can you tell me how that came to you, and how that process worked, and what made you buy it? What were there certain kind of metrics in how that business was operating, or certain potential points there that you could see? Because all of a sudden, now that you own it, it feels like AeroPress is everywhere, and it's done some big changes, and like you can't go anywhere without seeing an AeroPress anymore. It's a fantastic success.
So the whole I think when I met you, I walked in with my resume and you said, let me make you a shot of espresso. And I remember grimacing because I was a latte heathen, right? I hated the taste of a black coffee, and you made me an espresso. And I remember, I'd never had a really good espresso with a lot of crema. I think you did like a ristretto shot or something, and you were showing me how to, suck it up or whatever. And you're saying, do you taste the blackberry? And I was like, yeah, sure. But I remember working with you, I actually got a taste for coffee, like black coffee and espresso. I realized what it should taste like. But I feel like I've always loved the smell of the beans, but it never tastes quite like that smell.
Right.
And I remember this guy, similar to you, there's this guy, awesome guy who I used to work with, one of my earliest employees, Ali Bosworth, and he came to the office with this penis pump, PVC pipe looking contraption.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'd always be going to 2% or one of the other local cafes, and I would never make coffee at home. And he said, this thing blows everything out of the water, same thing. And he made me a coffee, and I remember just having it black and going, oh my God, it tastes the way the beans smell. That's very unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so that became my like daily driver. When I had kids and I stopped going out, I started making coffee. And one morning I looked down at it and I was like, who owns this? And I assume generally when I see a product that some big evil private equity corporation owns, everything. And when I looked it up, I realized that it was still owned by I think he was like in his late 70s, early 80s, Alan Adler, who he's a Stanford engineering professor who just came up with this idea, and he had made the Aerobie Frisbee.
I know, right? Those are so great.
Right? Like every 80s kid knows that, right?
Absolutely.
So I emailed him, and he was like, hey, I'm deaf, so I don't want to talk on the phone. Or not deaf, but I'm hard of hearing, so you're going to have to fly down here. And we went down, and we were just kind of having a casual conversation, and he kind of went like, all right, well, do you want to buy it? And we said, okay, well, what's your price? And he said $60 million. And me and Chris were just like, I don't know about that. And so we went back and forth with him over the course of, I don't know, a year or two. And finally we just sucked it up. We got the money together and we bought the thing. And it's an incredible business. If you think about, first of all, coffee is something that is good for you, right? It actually is like a vasodilator and longevity. And it's addictive, right? So
high in antioxidants,
right? So what an incredible product. And then you also have with the AeroPress one of kind of 6 methods of brewing coffee. And we saw it and we were like, oh, this is like Kleenex, right? Even if people rip off the AeroPress, they're always going to call them AeroPresses. There's incredible value to this brand, and there's a lot of opportunity to take it and do more with it. So a lot of people didn't want to have plastic. They wanted metal. They wanted glass. And we've just expanded all that. And so now I'll make sure to get you do you have the glass one?
I don't. I still have one of the old ones.
I'll send you the metal one's amazing because you can beat it up. You can take it traveling.
Wow.
We've made travel ones that pack down, but we've got this amazing CEO who's just like obsessed with coffee, and he's been growing the hell out of it, and it's been amazing. So I love businesses like that where it's does a good thing in the world. It's a product where we can actually take it and do something more with it, and it'll exist in 50 years. Whereas you do some software company and it's just code and it disappears into the ether, right?
Yeah. Okay. So when you went down there just because he was hard of hearing, did you have a plan that you wanted to buy it, or were you interested, or did you just want to meet him?
We flat out said we want to buy it. We just didn't know that he was going to be like so upfront,
like $60 million.
And we didn't know it'd be so expensive. Yeah.
Was it a pretty big company at that point, or was
it was very profitable. It had, as a cult classic, they spent no money on marketing. And one of the things we saw was just that because it was run by someone that was much older, they didn't really prioritize selling it online. So 3% of their sales were online, and almost everything was just through cafes. Like if you walk into any gourmet coffee shop, odds are they have an AeroPress.
Yeah.
But otherwise, in the broader retail market or online, there's like nothing. So we saw that as a big opportunity too.
Wow. So yeah, it's amazing to me that you actually own that business. I know you own lots of businesses, but that one in particular,
it's one of my favorites.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. That's so cool. Have you got any kind of plans in the future to not change it drastically? Because why would you? But are there any tweaks or anything coming down the pipelines that you want to share?
I don't want to upset our CEO, so I don't want to say too much.
Fair.
But I'd just say that we're looking at how to keep we're exploring automating and creating maybe an electric brewer. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're kind of dabbling and looking at that. But otherwise, it's really just kind of take what works and continue to evolve it over time. Like we've made a really beautiful hand grinder that fits perfectly into an AeroPress, so you can travel with it.
Oh, I didn't know
a hand grinder. We've made like a flow control cap, so you can do espresso, actually get crema out of it.
Okay.
We've got metal filters, all sorts of stuff.
Because, I'm sure you don't need my advice, but I would think that if there were two things to add to an AeroPress, it would be temperature control and pressure control.
Well, and that's exactly what I would love. I love making AeroPresses, and I make them for me and my girlfriend every morning. But for making them for more than 2 or 3 people, it's a bit of a pain in the butt.
Sure.
And I would love to be able to say, hey, every day at 6 a.m., I want this exact pressure, I want this amount of coffee, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see. This is how people die, right? This is how people, you try and build a Rube Goldberg machine, and it costs you $1 million, and you end up messing up the brand, right? So whenever we buy a great business like this, first and foremost, I think about how do I make sure I don't embarrass the founder? How do I make sure I keep it true to its DNA? Right. How do I make sure that all the people that go to the World AeroPress competition, like literally thousands of people, fly somewhere every year to compete?
You've obviously been there and seen it.
In Vancouver, yeah.
Okay.
It's crazy, right? And so like I don't want to mess that up. So that's priority number one.
Okay. Well, that's good because it does. You're right. It has a cult feel to it. Like people just either they love it or they don't know anything about it.
Totally.
And when they learn something about it, like I did years later, now I love it.
It's amazing. Like it really is one of those products that sells itself. And if you just let someone taste the coffee, they're always shocked.
Right. And if you don't say it's back then it was being totally marketed as a portable espresso machine.
I don't like it for espresso. Like I drink like basically a black Americano every morning with it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I can't wait to see what you got coming.
I'll send you after this. I'll give me your address. I'll give you a big package of all the cool stuff because we've made so much amazing stuff over the last 3 years. Like it's really evolved.
Maybe I should get a bunch wholesale.
Oh yeah. Let's definitely do that too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk after this.
And yeah, I want you to mess with it and give me some feedback.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like a really good idea. Sounds fun. Can't wait to make more coffee. I'll be doing it in my lab at my roastery, I'm sure. I'd like to not change topics completely and kind of keep this on the hospitality front because we we at the Bread and Butter Collective are a hospitality-focused industry, and I know we could get off and talk about the world and all sorts of tech things, but I also know that you have an interest in hospitality and hospitality businesses, and I wanted to ask you in a way that, well, I don't know how I wanted to ask you. What I wanted to ask was, why would a successful investor and entrepreneur buy any kind of restaurant and think that you're going to make money? And I know that that's not your primary focus, and I wanted to clarify that with that question, because it sounds like a hard question, but I mean it in the nicest way possible. Like, why would you throw good money after bad and buy hospitality businesses? And I'm not saying you can't make money in the industry. You certainly can, but it's really difficult. And why would you want to do something so challenging? Is there something else at play there?
I think, like I said, there's something special about a physical place. And I think there's an energy and something that happens in a community when you have like a great cafe or a great restaurant or whatever it is. And I've always felt that. I love going into restaurants, and I've always had lots of thoughts about them. I've always thought, oh, they should tweak the lighting or change the menu or, the flow of it or whatever. And so I think anyone who loves food or coffee has at some point had the stupid thought, I should start a cafe or a restaurant.
Sure.
And I don't think most people know the failure rate and how difficult it is. When I meet somebody who has been successful over the long term running a cafe or a restaurant, I bow down like Wayne's World, we're not worthy. And I think what I do is way, way easier, right? Because for example, you have no margin for error. You have 5 or 10% margin. You have to be an incredible operator. Every wasted coffee bean matters. Every broken cup matters. Every credit card transaction matters. It is like you are flying a fucking plane, and it's going to crash if you fuck up at all, right?
Right.
And so
that's a good analogy, actually.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. And so, in 2015, I was like, I was running all these tech businesses and software companies, and I was feeling kind of depressed because, like I said, we make this software and you don't have an experience of people using it. It's not like you sit in the room while someone uses your software. And I kept thinking, like, I want something physical. I want something real. I want to touch, make a thing that'll exist over the long term. And so me and my friend Rajiv and my business partner Chris, we decided, let's start a restaurant. We'll start a pizza restaurant. And we basically just were like, this should exist. Let's make a cool bar where you can eat pizza and it's going to be open late and have cheap beer. We just had this idea. And so we leased this space and we went into it. And it was like we were Fiji, and we said, let's go and invade the United States. We were doomed. We didn't know anything about what we were doing. We're in speedboats. We're driving up to an aircraft carrier and we're about to get wiped off the face of the earth. So, we signed a bad lease. We spent too much on the build out. We didn't do food costing. We hired the wrong people. Everything was wrong. And we weren't owner operators. We were just, people that were just putting a bunch of money into this thing and thinking it's going to run itself. And so I got utterly humbled. Me and my friends, we all lost all of our money, and we ended up getting into this dispute with the landlord, and it was just horrible experience. And around that time, Andrew Moyer, who owns Otavio in Oak Bay,
a good friend of the podcast,
great guy.
Yeah.
He I used to fix his computer when I was like 12 or 13. And my brother used to work at Otavio for years.
Oh, because you must have lived really close.
I lived
to
a block
that, right?
away.
Oh,
and so I love Otavio. I used to sit and listen to a podcast every weekend before I had kids on the patio there. And so Andrew came and he said, hey, I hear you're buying businesses. I'm thinking about selling. And he told me who he was going to sell to. And I went, oh, I don't know if that's going to go very well. I don't know if they're going to, keep this thing, keep Otavio true to Otavio. And so I said, okay, I'll look at it. I don't normally do this, but I'll look at it. And so I looked at the P&L and I saw, oh my God, it actually makes money. this is insane. I can't believe this business exists. It's actually like a really good food business, because I'd looked at lots of restaurant P&Ls and I'd looked at our own.
Yeah.
And so when I saw it, it slapped me in the face.
Well, they're good operators.
They're good operators, and it's a good model. And so, I bought that, and then I just said, every dollar I make will go into buying more institutional restaurants in Victoria. And so we ended up buying Ferris's.
Yeah.
We ended up buying Part and Parcel, and kind of similar to what we do at Tiny. I just was like, okay, I'm going to buy these businesses and just leave them alone. And so we've been doing that. And, about a year ago, we merged with Swans. So I met Mike Boyle, who you know, and it was that thing of that moment of like, oh my God, like you're a good operator. You know what you're doing.
He's a tremendous
operator. He's a phenomenal guy. And like, I just loved, he's a great business brain in the hospitality world, but then also outside. And so I just said to him, look, we've got all these restaurants. We don't really know what to do with them. Why don't we just merge and you can oversee everything? And so now we started this company called Foretop that owns all of it. So we're now shareholders in Swans, Otavio, Perro Negro, Ferris's, all the ones I mentioned, but we haven't made any money. We've made money on paper, but we've always had to buy a new fridge or repair something, or we've put it into buying more restaurants. And so I look at it as, it's like preserving forest. Sometimes you hear these like rich guys like Chip Wilson will like buy a national or buy a big swath of forest to protect it. Okay. I'm kind of going like, this is old growth forest in hospitality. Let's keep it alive. Right?
Huh. So you come at it through trying to preserve as opposed to thinking you're going to make money.
I just don't want to lose money. And the reason I don't want to lose money is because it's no fun to run a business that loses money for the manager, for the employees, for anybody. It has to be sustainable.
Yeah, for sure. So when you purchase them, are you buying them outright? Are you buying a portion of the business, or is it a mixture depending on the deal you're making?
Depends on what it is. Yeah. So with Otavio, I bought 100%. There's some where we're just investors. We've just supported them, like Ruth and Dean. We help give them startup capital.
Right. And Category 12 as well?
Yeah,
Is that
almost 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they still seem like they're doing really well.
They're awesome. They're great. I mean,
they're good people.
They're really good people. And this is the thing is like the problem with the restaurant industry is like manyfold, but I feel like part of it is that the permitting process, like here's an example. So we own a building down in Cadborough Bay, and I bought it because I wanted to put a phenomenal cafe there.
I've been waiting to see what's going on in there.
And I can't say who, but it's someone really, really exciting is going in there. But we bought this building a year and a half ago, and the rezoning process has taken, all we're doing is we're knocking down a wall and we're putting in some plumbing and electrical. To get the demo permit took 6 months, and now it's been still in purgatory in Saanich permitting just to get approval to start doing the build out. And so when you think about this, like, yeah, I'm lucky. Like I can afford to wait a year and a half and suck that up and not get paid rent. But I have a friend who runs a comedy club. I think everyone knows this, but Alex and Nash from OK Dope, they do comedy at the Mint, and they've actually rented a space on Cook Street, and they're doing a comedy club there. And I texted Alex the other day and I said, oh, when are you guys going in? Is the build out done? They said, the build out's totally done. We just don't have an occupancy permit. And it might be another like 2 or 3 months. And if you think about that for them, that's $5 or $10 grand a month, just being lit on fire. And they're comedians. They don't have a lot of money. And so I just go like, how can anyone do business in this environment? This is crazy.
So yeah, I'm always coming up against permits and just all the red tape, all the hurdles. It should be so much easier. You got a good idea. They say it's a good idea. What's to hold you back?
It's all well intentioned, right? If you said, well, we want to make sure that there's fire exits. We don't want people to panic and die in a fire. We don't want the ceiling to collapse when there's an earthquake. These are all totally valid concerns. But what it means is that you've got all these people that want to start businesses, and you have this tiny little pipe they all have to fit through, and they don't have enough money to fit through the pipe. And so you end up in this situation where you have a city that is not thriving. And that's not the only piece. There's many different aspects to this. And I don't want to shit on the government too much, but I do struggle a little bit, I just go, why wouldn't they just hire 20 more people to do permits? Like Langford, you have an idea, it started. Now Langford's a mess. You go down the street and you're going, why is there a house next to a building?
Right.
They fucking build stuff, you know?
They're quick. Their business licensing is permanent. You buy it once, you're good forever. Not like Victoria, where it feels like a tax every year.
You have to renew your business license every year?
Every year.
What?
Every year.
That's ridiculous.
I know. And you got to pay them every year. And you have to do all your backflow prevention checks. And like, things have gotten more and more complicated over the years. They certainly haven't gotten easier. And I don't know if they've gotten any better in terms of safety. I mean, I just wouldn't know that. I think I'd be speculating.
I think like part of this comes from the fact that there's so many municipalities, right? And so if they were all like, part of the problem is like the people that go downtown to go to these businesses are not even voting in what occurs downtown, right? Yeah. And there's no way for everyone to coordinate costs and fix these problems. And I think it's probably too messy to combine everyone right now. But I really scratch my head because I remember about almost 10 years ago now, I bought a lot that I wanted to build a house on. And I said, I said to a friend who's in Texas, I said, oh, I'm building my dream house. I'm so excited. I'm going to design and build this house, right? And he said, oh my God, that's crazy. I bought a lot too, and I'm about to do the same thing. And I said, oh, amazing. How long you think it's going to take? They're telling me it's going to take about 4 years. And he said, oh my God, that's crazy. We're going to be in 12 months.
In and done.
In and done. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. There's no way. And lo and behold, he sent me photos of his place. And the reason for that, you've got a lot of different reasons. Building cost is cheaper. There's some things like that. There's more labor. But the biggest thing is that in Dallas, they just have pre-approved permitting. So if you build, they just say, these are the rules, build to the rules. And if you don't build to the rules, you're going to knock it down. So you're going to have a problem. But you just start building. So you have this lot and you just start building. Whereas in Canada, or in BC at least, or Victoria, you have to file ahead of time. This whole back and forth. In Oak Bay, you even have to have it look a certain way, or in Uplands. Like all this stuff, I just think it's like licensing for people who are barbers. It's like, do we really need someone to have a license to cut hair, or could we just trust that people are going to cut hair? And if, I want to take the risk of letting you cut my hair, that's my choice.
Right. And if you don't like it, you don't go back.
Totally.
Pretty simple.
And again, these are things that I like. I can argue both sides, right? I know exactly what the argument is for why we need the regulation to protect individuals, to protect building owners, to protect tenants, all these things, protect the city from liability. But man, like, this is not a good environment for making things happen quickly.
It's a lot of protection for a slim chance of anything happening. Well, you just listened to the first part of our interview with Andrew Wilkinson, and stay tuned or keep subscribing so that when part 2 drops next week, you're going to be there and hear it all.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles-Inspired Catering, and Zambries.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.